So we are excited to open our discussion as this will open more opportunities for our city. Surely we are excited now to know and discover about the newest Regus CDO. So to dive deeper into discussion, we are now down to our favorite and most awaited segment this morning, Q&A. So I'm sure our media friends have a lot of queries and clarifications about the latest development. And to start off, I already have gathered up, first two questions to get the ball rolling from the media a while ago. So Sir Gary, you mentioned that CDO is on track to be the next sought after investment. What are some trends you foresee in the next couple of years, especially with this opening of the Regus?
First of all, good morning to everyone, and it's nice to meet all of you. As I mentioned earlier, this is our first major investment in a very long time, and I hope it won't be the last. And we hope for your continued support. So at the end of this interview today, I hope that we won't be able to just explain what this project is about, but I hope that we can win your hearts over, and so you can write many beautiful things about us. But let me actually correct what I said earlier. You mentioned about CDO being the next sought-after investment destination. It already is, actually. I would have to say it's not the next sought-after investment destination because it's already been a major investment destination for a very long time. When we looked at CDO, I'll be honest, we were probably a bit late. There's from the real estate perspective, you have all the major developers here already. You have plenty of townships, malls, good infrastructure. I mean, all the necessary ingredients for any kind of real estate to be successful here. It's already present. And when we look at just the statistics of the city, it's not a small city at just a little under 1 million people. GDP growth, it's in line with the national average. It's about 7.2, 7.3%. So clearly, there's a lot of activity going on here. What we also liked about it is that not just looking at it from a real estate perspective, but I mean, you look outside of your window here. It's one of the few cities that has a very vibrant trading economy. You have very modern ports. You have tourism, agribusiness, real estate, BPOs. It's just a lot of everything. And so all of those ingredients put together, it's what we like when we put a center like this, because we can cater to all kinds of offices, all kinds of industries. And that's what we see here in CDO, is that almost every industry that's present in Mindanao, it's present here in CDO. And one thing that we always loved about our visits here was that the feel, the vibe, the electricity here in CDO, it's very apparent. When you move around the city, you go out to restaurants, go out at night, there's a really fun happening vibe. So that's something that we really
I agree with you, sir. So thank you for that. So it's interesting that we're aiming to attract more investors as well, on top of all of that, and businesses, and this is by highlighting more key cities such as Cagayan de Oro. So this is for Mr. Lars. So apart from all the key cities that are growing now in the country, may we know why you chose CDO as your target location?
CDO is pretty obvious when you move in for the first time into a new country. You tend to focus on the capital region. And that's not just us. We opened the first center in Makati actually 25 years ago. It is most other companies. What we see today is that the Metro Manila is absolutely exaggerated. And this is not just a matter about helping investors into the provinces, it's also a matter about helping Metro Manila alleviating the pressure. So many companies, the vast majority, if not all, in Metro Manila are no longer looking at are discussing whether or not to expand outside of Metro Manila. No, they are much further in their considerations. It's when and it is where. And I'm also convinced that there are investors from abroad who are not even in the country yet that now will be bypassing Metro Manila and go straight to locations like Cagayan de Oro. This center here literally is the ground zero, a new touchdown point, an incubator for investors into Cagayan de Oro. Cagayan de Oro has historically been very vibrant, always. If you look at the so-called Tier 2 cities in the Philippines, Davao and Cebu comes to mind of most very quickly. But there's no doubt in my mind Cagayan de Oro is on top of the list for all remaining Tier 2 cities. And actually there are a lot of them. I can, top of mind, think of at least a dozen Tier 2 cities. But I would say in the southern part of the Philippines, Cagayan de Oro has always been in the lead. And then if we focus within Mindanao, Gensan would probably be the third. As I also mentioned outside, I do have some history coming here, and I really think that you have succeeded in expanding and growing your economy without doing it at the expense of the nature, at least as far as I can tell from my short visit this time. I still see, I mean, obviously it's spectacular with the landscaping, the mountains and the valleys, the water, but I also see the trees and the rivers, and I'm just so delighted that I now have an even better excuse for coming back here more often, and I'm looking forward to doing wild water rafting here at least. Which is very famous. I've already done it a lot down in Mindanao, Davao City, outside Davao City, but it should be even better here, I hear. Does that answer your question for now?
Yes.
An incubator?
Yes, Regus is a business incubator, and we hope to do that for CDO. So I think for our media friends, please feel free to ask your questions by raising your hands, and kindly state your name and publication for better identification. Yes, sir.
Rene Malferrari of Radio Natin. Sir, how are your rates? Are they competitive? Do you have lock-in contracts or any special offers? And how flexible are your office working places?
Definitely the rates are very competitive. What I can say about that is that when you pay for your office space here, for one, it's very flexible in the sense that you can have an office for one person, for 5 people, for 15, for 40. That's the offices here are in all shapes and sizes. You can lock it in for 1 week, for 1 month, for 6 months, for 1 year. It depends on what your requirements are. And so that's essentially the point of flexible working, is that it doesn't depend on the building. As a building owner, I don't have to require you to build out your facility and lock you in for 4 years and escalate your rent and all of those things. It really depends on what your requirements are. So in that case, it becomes very affordable. And as I mentioned, it becomes very flexible. To answer your question also, no, you don't have to lock in for a very long period of time. So it's really helpful.
Thank you, thank you.
If I may add to that, because one of you might even be a follow-up question, how much? Of course, there's a curiosity, how much is it, right? Well, regardless whether you take an office or just a regular membership, the key here is that you have access to come here every day, and you can sit in the breakout area in the club, business club area by the reception where we came in. Plus you have access to the not only national but the global network of 3,500 locations in 120 countries in over 1,000 cities. So what is the price for all of that? The entry level price to become a member here is less than 4,000 pesos per month. not dollars, not per day, but pesos per month. That's the entry level. And then you can just show your membership. You download the app, My Regus, and you can drop in. Next time you are in Metro Manila, you just take My Regus, and it will show you where's the nearest center near you. And you walk in, you show your membership, and then you avail of coffee, and you're already sitting in professional workspace. And think what that does to a local entrepreneur here who has barely started to expand outside of CDO yet. This is a fantastic launch platform, just like it is an incubator for the incoming investors, that they can have a touchdown point, test the waters, no long-term liabilities, no capital investments. And then knowing Cagayan de Oro, more likely than not, they will decide, wow, this is a place to stay. But we enable it in the first place so it happens sooner rather than later. But it also means that the local entrepreneurs, they can take off sooner rather than later, thanks to this entry point and membership and network.
Thank you, thank you.
Mark Francisco from Mindanao Daily. During the opening program earlier, you had a picture taking with Concentrix and OP360, and you mentioned them as partners. Does that mean that they will be occupying a big chunk of space here in their BPO operations?
Well, we're in talks with them. Like for instance, Concentrix has been our tenant in Davao since 2007, and OP360 has been with us for about going on 2 years now. So that's what I meant when I said that they're our partners. They've been our tenants, and our tenants, we consider them partners. No? So they're definitely looking at Cagayan de Oro. I think one good thing about it is that they're really looking outside, not just outside Metro Manila, but they're even looking outside of Davao, and they're looking at different sites all across Mindanao. We can't say for certain yet that they'll be located here, but we do hope. We do hope that this will be maybe the first of many locations that they'll have across here, across Cagayan de Oro.
And if I may, I mean, this is the beauty of having a partnership like this within the Philippines, because as Gary just mentioned, they're already his customers elsewhere. Globally, 83% of Fortune 500 companies are our customers in multiple locations. 83%. So obviously, when these major corporations suddenly say we want to expand in the Philippines, or we want to go to the Philippines, we have literally put Cagayan de Oro on their map now, today.
One question. May we know what the meaning of Regus is? Where does that word come from?
Regus. Oh, Regus. It's a good question. The company is just over, we are approximately 35 years old. Our founding CEO was a British entrepreneur, and he's still our main shareholder and our CEO, by the way, and still very much an entrepreneur. I think he was selling hot dogs down in Europe, in Belgium, and he was looking for an office space. He found out how cumbersome it was to get an office, and how many years he had to sign up for, and money to be spent. So he was like, there got to be an easier way. And that was how the first Regus opened in Brussels, actually, by Mark Dixon, roughly 35 years ago. Regus, I mean, I looked it up. I'm not 100% sure how he came up with the name, but Regus obviously comes from regal, which is royal. So I think the logo is still sort of suggesting a crown. So that is where the brand comes from.
Thank you.
Joanne from Sensor Cagayan de Oro. May I ask, aside from Concentrix and OP360, are there other companies or investors who express their interest in becoming a tenant of Regus here in Cagayan de Oro?
Another good question. You know, for
So many
normally for
questions.
the sake of confidentiality, for our clients, we can't disclose the names,
Media
but there
sila.
are quite a bit.
Napil-apil naman tayo.
Most of them in nature are the industries that they're representing are BPO. So it's similar to what we're seeing in our other office development. The demand is
I think
coming
it's their conference.
from BPO. Without giving it away, a lot of these are some of the big names that you hear about all over the country, and there's very strong demand for here.
And the more you write about it, the more they will come.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mona Lagpas from Mindanao Reporter. Sir, ilang cities na ba yung Regus Tower? Ilang cities na ba kayo? Diba, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao po ito.
Yes.
So ilan na?
I'll let Mr. Witting answer that because he represents the whole chain.
Okay, I'm not very good at the language, so in English, please.
How
How many cities na?
How many cities are you represented in already?
Okay, already. Okay, in addition to Cagayan de Oro, we are of course in Davao City. And in the Visayas, we are in Cebu, and we are in Iloilo, and under construction in Mactan. In Luzon, we are in central Luzon. We are opening next month in Subic. We are already in Clark, and we are this week, I guess, Friday, signing for the first in Angeles City. So that will be the second in Pampanga. In many of these places, by the way, we have multiple locations ever growing. And then within Metro Manila, we are, of course, in all of the obvious CBD areas of Ortigas, Makati and BGC, but also absolutely out in the outskirts. So we are just about to open this month in the northern part of Quezon City, almost before you enter Bulacan, and in the southern part in Las Piñas, just before it turns into Cavite. So we make sure that we are in the obvious CBD areas, but also as close as possible to where people live. And that is the beauty of having hybrid working.
JM from the Bruce. Do you have any plans to expand Regus here in the Philippines?
Yes, I mean,
Aside from here,
we are right now looking at an expansion of, we're going to exceed 30 locations within the first 3 months of next year. And that basically means that we have added 10 locations in the course of barely 1 year. Is that a lot? I would think so, considering that we've been in the country since 1998. And when I became country manager 11 years ago, we had 3 locations in Metro Manila. So it took 10 years to go from 3 to just over 20. And now we are going in barely 1 year from just over 20 to exceed 30. So we are absolutely accelerating, and the model to do so is obviously in partnership with local partners like Carrie and Damosa.
and what are the main? Whether I have question, what are the main advantage of choosing Regus over a traditional office lease for startups and small businesses?
Well, if you are a startup, let's say you and I, we start a company together, a PR company together, right? We don't have too many clients yet now, and we probably limited resources, time, clients, money. So what we need is definitely not to tie up our time in learning about real estate and signing up long-term leases with capital investments. So we want to get out there and chase our first customers, you and I, right? So the way to do that is obviously to start as a member here. Then after we get some momentum, then we might also need 1 or 2 desks for our support staff now that we are, starting to expand. And we can avail of the entire network as we are doing so. So if you say, Lars, I'm going to cover a story in Subic tomorrow, Well, because you already, we are already using this facility, then we use the membership so that you can always drop in and after an interview and write the story in a business lounge of Regus anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world for that matter. So, I mean, I cannot guarantee you and I success, but I can guarantee that we will get more customers faster at a better price, and we'll be able to focus on what our business is about instead of trying like Mark Dixon's hot dog story, having to like, this is just too complicated.
And if I can give one concrete example, this is from our experience from our center in Davao. So I mean, back in right when we opened, a lot of our tenants were professionals, lawyers. We even had several real estate brokers. So, for instance, we had several real estate brokers, but for one, they rented a one-seat office for several months, and what that did to his business was that it gave him a little bit more prestige, rather than saying, okay, client, I'll meet you at the coffee shop, or I'll meet you at wherever. Now to say, come to my office. You have a proper office, you have a good address, your calling card says, now it can say SM, CDO, Tower, Penthouse, Regus Center, and then you can meet in a proper boardroom. Then you can show your project, you can put it up on the screen, and you look a lot more presentable. So why is that important? It's because it's a lot of times in a business like that, it's perception, right? And you have to put your best foot forward with your clients. So being in a center like this did a lot of good for his business, and I think he ended up growing it so much that he put up his own permanent space in another building as well.
So is there a complementary
For permanent space?
Yes.
Definitely. We also have permanent space. That's one of our main businesses, as Damosa, and they really work hand in hand together. So we're able to offer our customers both options, but especially in cities where or actually any city, we're trying to bring in new investors, international investors. They're new to Mindanao, they're new to Davao. Flexible workspace, we always tell them that's the way to go, because it's low risk for them, it's flexible for them, they don't have to make any long-term commitments, and it's an internationally known name, so it's very familiar to you.
Sir, ma'am, sir, in our local communities, do we expect employment for our locals as part of your CSR?
Definitely. I mean, again, based on our experience, that's something that the Regus centers were able to do. It created a lot of employment because, for instance, if we had a BPO locate with us, and we've had several BPOs locate with us, right then and there, there's already a requirement for X number of BPO agents, and of course there's turnover. So after that, then new ones would come in, and even. I used the example earlier about, say, a real estate broker. Say a real estate broker takes an office space here. They're going to be looking at hiring 10, 20, 30 staff to do their selling for them. So now you create this multiplier effect, and that creates
Jobs.
a much more vibrant economy. So, I mean, that's a big reason why we're in the office space business. Because it creates employment, creates a lot of value for the cities and the provinces that we operate in. And us as a Mindanao development company, that's something that's very important for us.
And to add prestige. Prestige.
Well, that too. Yes.
For Damosa again, you mentioned earlier about permanent space. How many current projects you have in Davao that are, aside from office space, condos and subdivisions? How many in total in Davao City?
Well,
And any plans of expanding like here?
yeah, so I guess for your first question, we have ongoing, I'll just mention the ones that have ongoing construction maybe. So we have 3 residential projects. We have 2 townships that we're building. We just completed our latest office tower, which is about 20,000 square meters. And we have an ongoing industrial park. So we have projects across the different kinds of real estate. Again, we don't just build to sell, although that's one part of the business. We like to build projects that can bring in more value. You know? So bring in more investors, bring in foreign companies to put their factories in, or foreign companies to put their offices in. So those are the kinds of things that we're doing. So I would count, we probably have about 5 ongoing projects. Are we going to expand here in CDO? I definitely hope so. As I mentioned earlier, I will be the first to admit, I think we're even late coming here. All the major developers are here already. So I'm hoping that this first project of ours here becomes somewhat of a launch pad for residential projects, maybe some more offices. Maybe the tourism business, because we're also in that. So I really see that there's so many different possibilities here. And we'll be asking for your help when the time comes, so that we can really learn more about CDO and that you can help promote this as well.
So speaking of real estate, are you open with a rental manager for the office for renting as a space? Are you open for individual to bring clients?
Here? Yeah, definitely.
So how? If ever, I'm from Philippine Homes also. So
okay.
if ever I am a rental manager,
Yes.
so I could bring clients.
Yes.
What is the process or how can we
I can refer you to our person in charge for this center, but there definitely is a program for brokers. We definitely work with brokers. There is a referral program, and I think it depends on of course number of seats, the length of the lease, the usual. But definitely that's something that we can work together.
Yes, thank you.
I think we're running out of time, but we can accommodate one more question.
So just a follow-up question. I am Shari of Shari Talks CDO, and pre-pandemic I am also working as a consultant, client support officer for an immigration consultancy for New Zealand. So a question po, there might be tenants and members that are accepting walk-in clients. So please share about your security system.
Security system.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure if you saw it all around. There's a lot of CCTVs. I think almost every corner of the place is covered. I counted earlier on the screen, there was probably more than 20 screens. It's also important that we're located in a building like this because you already have the first layer of security at the ground floor. And of course, being in an SM building, you know that they're also going to make sure that their premises are secure. All of the guests are properly logged in and out. So we know that a person is there as a member or a person is coming in as a guest. All of your offices do come with, you do have your own key. Or, you can lock up your premises. If you're renting this room, for instance, you can lock it up at night. It's not going to be open for us, for instance. So there's quite a bit of redundancies in terms of the security.
So for additional questions, we're going to give out our PR kits and we can also discuss should you have any more questions. To wrap everything up, I think business incubation was thrown around a lot today and flexible workspace, and we're very excited to bring flexible workspaces here in CDO where we create employment and these employees will work closer to home, and eventually they also have access to 3,000 locations worldwide if whatever here in Regus, right? So thank you again for speakers, Mr. Gary Dagumay and Mr. Lars Wittig. And of course, thank you our media friends for making time to visit us today, and this won't be the last. We'll see you again very soon, maybe as members. And yes, we after the event, we will be providing all of you the official photos, and Kay will also be handing out our press kits. And yes, that's all. And thank you
so
for.
much.
Thank you.